Today I'm going to be repairing a large hole in the wall. This particular one is caused by cat scratching. It's right underneath a window where a cat door has been installed. They've used the wall as a little bit of a boost. I'm going to be patching that in, and I'm going to be actually putting a guard over it so that once we get the patch in and cleaned up, it's going to be protected. For those of you that are wondering why we're doing this, I've raised a number of teenagers. We've actually had big holes in the wall from kids putting their heads through it, and I've come up with a technique of patching it in by basically cutting out the area that's affected and replacing it with a piece of sheetrock after putting some backing in it, and then doing some mudding and taping, and that's what I'll be doing today. First thing I'm going to be doing is marking out a section to cut out, and if you notice there's a nail right here, and I think that's part of the frame for the window, because I've checked in here and there's no wood in here. So I'm going to be cutting out a square. I'm going to go just right underneath the nail because this is really close to the sill, and I'm going to measure this. I'm going to cut out just enough to get rid of the bad section, so we're going to make it 6 inches across. And it looks like about 6 inches down. These little holes here, I'll end up basically with the face of a hammer just indenting them slightly, and when I mud it in, they'll cover up neatly, and I'll put a couple of skin coats over it as well. Well, we've got the hole cut out. This is actually pretty good. I didn't expect this, but it's not a bad thing. I usually would take 1x2s and put them across the back of the hole, and I'll show you exactly how that would normally be done. But in this case, I'm going to take the piece of sheetrock that I cut out and put it right into that slot there. So what I would usually do, if there was no studs underneath or behind the sheetrock where the hole is I would cut a piece of 1x2 and slide it underneath, and using sheetrock screws attach it. There would be 2 pieces. That'll give you 4 spots to attach the patch into, and that way you can get it tight and flush so that it sets in there very tightly. I've already got a couple of spots here, but what I want to do is go ahead and work this piece of 1x2 underneath the sheetrock and kind of go across that corner. So I've cut a 5-inch piece, and I'm going to try to work it between the sheetrock and the insulation. And what I'll do, that'll give me now 4 points to attach the patch to. So what I'm doing is going over the edges, just making sure there's a nice little bevel there. This is going to give the compound a little bit of extra surface area to adhere to. I'm going to vacuum this out before I start compounding as well. Dead spot there. we'll get that filled in. And I'm going to get it vacuumed out, and then I'll start the compounding. So anyway, just to recap, I put a 1x2 across here. There was already 2x4s in this area, and the 1x2 I screwed it in tight, and that was to give me something to be able to attach the sheetrock screw to hold the piece of sheetrock in there nice and tight. Got some sandpaper. I'm just going to go really lightly over some of those areas that have a little bit of rough or paper hanging off of it. The whole idea is to get that loose paper off. Alright, I've got a vacuum cleaner, so it's going to get noisy, but I'm going to go ahead and vacuum not only this out, but everything that's on the floor, because I've created quite a mess. I'll be using a premix wallboard joint compound. It's kind of lazy, but I find it's nice and smooth, easy to put on, and if anything, I'm usually pressed for time, so this will be it is a time saver. My goal here is to fill this in. I'm not going for smoothness, nor am I going for a finish. What I do want is to get most of this filled in. Now this is going to be a heavy coat, so it's going to probably going to take a bit of time to dry. I'll probably end up leaving this overnight and then resume patching in the morning. Alright, it's day 2. The first coat of mud has dried, and what I'm going to do today is sand it and put another coat of joint compound on. You can see there's been some shrinkage, which is not unusual. When you have large amounts of joint compound, it will tend to shrink. The sanding is just to take down some of the high spots, and then I'll put another coat of joint compound down, and hopefully by tomorrow we'll be ready for some skim coats. And now for round 3. On to the next step. It's taking a few more coats than I thought, but not especially surprising. There was a lot of fill there. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little bit of shrinkage in some of these areas. So I'm going to sand again and put another coat on, and we'll see where it goes from here. Alright, now it's time for the final skim coat. Let me sand this down, blend it in a little bit. And I'm doing this because I don't want to leave any ridges. Well, it looks like that last coat is dry now, ready for the final sanding before we prime. So let's get this off of here. And give it a light sanding, and we'll prep this and go for the paint. I am going to work the edges in really good because there might be some ridges around the outside, and I don't want those to show up when we prime them. So I am going to go and I'm going to blend these edges in. Anywhere there's any ridges, I'm going to get those ridges down. Leave a nice smooth surface. And what I'll do is I'll roll a coat of primer into that. And when it's done, it should be indistinguishable from from the surrounding walls. Alright, so I've got this sanded down. I'm going to use, rather than PVA primer, I'm going to use Kills Hydol. I used this on the ceiling project, the popcorn removal project. It worked really, really well in terms of getting good coverage over over any defects, etc. Also going to be using a very nappy roller. I want to leave a lot of texture behind because that'll help cover up any imperfections. And I'll be using a angle brush just to cut in on the edge underneath the sill. This still needs a lot of work, but right now let's keep it clean, and so I'll get that going right now. So I think we call this done for now. Looks pretty good. There's no indication, you can't see any lines that there's a patch in there. No nail pops from where the screws were put in. So I'm pretty happy with this finish. Yeah, we'll go with this, and hopefully you've enjoyed this and you've gotten something useful out of it.